Phil, we're not in a line of work where we have cut weeks, or you see guys that you work with, just unfortunately have to go other places. How do you describe the atmosphere of this week and anything different this time around through the first couple of days?
Well, I think it's always a hard week. This year, obviously, is different than any, because you have you've had no preseason games, where guys have gotten, I guess, more of an expanded opportunity, on the field in game situations. We've obviously tried to do a couple mock games, but so yeah, I mean, and it's been weird too, right? Because it usually goes in a little bit of, there's a couple of different phases of the cut downs, and usually start with 90, where you start at 80. So I mean, it's been different all the way around, and then you usually are around guys a little more going all the way back to OTAs. So it does feel a little different. It doesn't feel like your usual fourth week of preseason due to all those reasons I mentioned. But also I think with 16 practice squad spots, so you would imagine that there's still going to be a lot of the same guys in that locker room, and I think we're all continuing to come together. But I think what makes this one challenging is you don't have that preseason tape, right? Because I've always felt like the young guys in this boat, you kind of remind them. Obviously, they want to make it here where they've started, but you kind of remind them, hey, shoot, you're trying out for 31 other teams every time you go out there in the preseason. So you don't have that this year because you don't have that game tape. So it does make it a lot different.
Mike Chappell.
Yeah, Philip, I'm wondering, as a quarterback, what do you, when you judge yourself game to game, are there specifics you look for, aside from winning and losing? Completion percentage, yards per attempt, spread the ball. What tells you that you're doing your job and the passing game's working?
Well, I mean, I do think it starts with winning. I mean, scoring. I've always thought, shoot, our job as an offense is to score one more point than the other team. If our D gives up 2, we got to find a way to get 3. If they give up 35, we better get 36. I mean, I just think that's the simplest way to look at it from a win-loss standpoint offensively, big picture wise. I guess specifically quarterback play. I mean, the first thing to me is not turning the ball over. I think that's the first thing you look at, and shoot, if you turn it over 3 or 4 times, it's already not been a good day. So I think not turning the ball over, and then a completion percentage, yes, because I think if you're throwing completions, especially to the guys we have that are on the other end of it, then you're probably getting first downs and moving the ball and doing the things you need to do to get in the other end zone. So, I mean, those are the first things that pop to mind. I mean, I think definitely yards per attempt is important. I mean, if you're completing a high percentage of your passes and your yards per attempt is up at 7.5, 8 yards, then, I mean, that's saying, could be saying 70% of the time you're gaining 8 yards a clip and you're not turning it over. I mean, those things are certainly winning football from an individual standpoint, as far as how you look at yourself critically.
Thanks.
Kevin Bowen.
Hey, Philip, I'm not sure how much you watch college football, but what did you know of Jacob Eason before he was drafted by the Colts, and what have you learned about him on and off the field so far?
Yeah, well, certainly knew of him. I mean, I do love football. I'm not probably as much as a college fan. I am, but not as much. It seems each year you're removed. You're not as much because it first starts you watching all your buddies that were still at NC State, and then as soon as that phases out, the further you get removed. But obviously remember Jacob at Georgia, and then obviously at Washington. He's really had a good camp. He's talk about going back to the first question, Charlie. They're in a different boat now without the OTAs, without all that time in the off season in person to get a lot of reps. And now we're getting to the point where we're trying to get ready for a season, so the reps are limited for him. But he's made the most of them. He can really throw it. I mean, he threw a ball the other day in individuals that I shook my head a little bit and said, I can't do that. I can't make that throw. He's got a big arm, strong, seems to see it really well. So it's just continue to get used to it. I always think now for young quarterbacks, getting in the huddle and calling a play is weird for them. It wasn't so much 17 years ago. But now these college guys come in and they've very rarely been in a huddle and certainly rarely called a play calls with the length and verbiage like we have. So, but he seemed to pick that up as well. So there's a lot of different challenges when you're a young quarterback, but he's been a good addition to the room. I say addition, I've been an addition as well, but he's been good in the room and certainly improving every day.
Greg Doyle.
Okay, sorry. 2 questions for you. One is, how are you tracking, if you're tracking St. Michael? You know, you're going to coach them someday. Are you getting film? I know they played it last week. What are you doing with that?
Yeah, I'm certainly not going to have the time to be kind of doing that on the side. But I did kind of blinked at the jamboree last week just to kind of. It was just kind of cool. You already have a little bit of that school pride there. Just wanted to check it out, see them in uniform, see them out there on the field. And so, yeah, I'll certainly keep up. I mean, I was keeping up, the last year or two as well, just following on Friday nights. I mean, usually there's a Friday night or late Friday night or Saturday morning phone call that my dad and I would always have and ask about all the local schools, obviously in the area where we grew up, and then just talk about high school football around the state, who's winning, who's not winning. He's talking about old coaching buddies or guys that are coaching here and there. And so it won't be too different, other than certainly I'll have a little closer eye on St. Michael.
Okay, and then my second question, if you don't mind, Eason made a throw. You said, shoot, I can't make. I'm assuming you mean never in your career because you've made that throw, right? And if so, could you describe the throw? You mind?
Yeah, I just meant, I think I could have made the throw. I don't know that I ever had the arm strength that he has, but I just meant the way it was spinning and the velocity of which he threw it. I just kind of shook my head going, shoot, I don't have that throw. I don't have that shot in the bag anymore. I don't know that I ever had it to the extent he has it, but yeah, I don't even remember. It was a, we're doing QB work, QB drills. It was just a ball out on the boundary that was, I can make the throw. I just got to throw it a lot earlier than he does.
Okay.
Mike Wells.
Hey, Philip, I wanted to ask you, what have you noticed about the Jonathan Taylor and Marlon Mack? What has impressed you about the two of them, and how unique are they as far as playing styles?
Well, I think they'll be great compliments to one another. I'm always careful to try to make comparisons with guys from the past, but I think that's human nature a little bit, guys you've been with over the years and then who they remind you of. And Jonathan reminds me a lot of Michael Turner. If y'all remember Michael Turner from the old San Diego days, and then obviously with the Falcons, but they similar in size, and people forget how fast Michael Turner was, but he could really run. Same with Jonathan. So they remind me they're similar in that regard. That's who he reminds me of. But I think and Marlon's had unbelievable. I mean, obviously off to already having a heck of a career, but Marlon's been awesome this camp. I mean, gosh, he's made so many plays, both run game and pass game. So he looks and seems to feel great. So I think certainly in answering that question about those two guys, they will complement each other very well. But I think the one thing that stands out about both of them, as I've always had the best view in the house after you hand one off to them, is their vision. They both have really good vision. They're both patient and have really good vision. And the combination of that with the guys we have up front can really make the run game awesome. The guys are doing a heck of a job blocking it up. And then when you have two guys that really see it well, that makes it for a tough attack to stop.
Steven Holder.
Hey, Philip. Your teams, if I remember correctly, in recent years have had some success with run after the catch. And from what we've watched out in training camp, I'm seeing a little bit of that out here as well. Is that what is that a product of? I mean, is that really just an effort on? Is that some of that an effort on your part in getting the guys the ball in position to run, and how much does a quarterback play in there?
Well, certainly the guys on the receiving end got to have that ability to be able to catch it and do something with it. They have to have that skill, certainly. But I do think that's been one of a couple of things that I've done well that's allowed me to play as long is to get the ball out quick and be accurate for the most part. Certainly, not all the time, but I think so. That's been a good attribute of mine, is getting the ball in my hand quickly, which allows those guys to get it with room to do something with it, and then do my best to deliver it in an accurate spot that allows them also to not have to make too many adjustments just to catch the ball. So it's a combination of the whole thing tying together. I think getting it out quick is one thing. You also don't want to be back there in a hurry to get it out when you don't have to. Just go through the natural progression. But there's times when, and some of that comes with experience, when a guy may be fourth in the progression, but you get to him on your first hitch just because of I think some of his experience and how many times you've seen the play and played the coverage and played, and so you get to the back, or you get to the the third guy a little faster, which therefore allows him to catch and run with it, as opposed to hanging on until the last second. Then you throw that check down and they're getting blown up.
Okay, we'll go 2 more. Bob Kravitz.
All right, we're unmuted. Hey, Phil, how would you describe your throwing motion to someone who maybe has never seen you play? And has there been
All right, Bob, I think you broke up. I'll let Philip, if you got any of that. I think he was asking about your throwing motion and describing it.
Yeah, I got the first part of it, Bob. I'll answer that, and if it cleans up, then you can follow up.
Yes.
At first I may say you got to see it. You got to see it. It's going to be hard to describe to you. I think it's actually kind of evolved in the last 20 years. Actually, I don't think I throw it exactly the same as I threw it in 2000. While there's definitely still some similarities. I mean, I guess I would try to go take them back to see the root of, to see where we kind of think it started, which would be, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old at my dad's high school practices, throwing a regulation size football. So at that point I couldn't hold it, couldn't grip it, palm it. So I had to kind of lay it in my hand a little bit. So, and you're not strong enough to throw it, then you push it, and so I think that's kind of where you kind of all think it started. And then, as you get bigger and stronger, you change it a little bit, but I think the slot and the actual motion kind of stays with what's most comfortable in the muscle memory and how you get used to throwing it. And so I guess that'd be the best way I describe it. I'm a little more of a, shoulder thrower, I guess. I kind of push it. I don't really flick it. It's more of a push deal sometimes. But I guess I throw it from a bunch of different angles. There's been plenty of game plays or practice plays where if you pause it, you could argue that I was throwing it underhanded almost. It was just trying to get it around the guy here or there. So I guess that's the best way I can describe it.
And just to follow up real quickly, have you had coaches along the way who've attempted to alter your throwing motion?
Yeah, a little bit when I was going to college camps, guys would tweak it and say, get that arm up a little bit and all those things. But when I got to NC State, Norm Chow was there. He was just hired to be the offensive coordinator. And Greg probably remembers this story, but he was there. And so he asked me, as they're not supposed to peek off the balcony or whatever, but he asked me in that early spring, I graduated early. I came in one day and he goes, "Hey, is your shoulder bothering you?" And I said, "No, I don't know what you're talking about." So he said, "Well," I said, "That's just how I throw it, coach." So he sent some clips to Mike Holmgren when I think Mike was in Seattle at the time, and just asked him to take a look at it. And Mike's response was, if the balls aren't getting batted down and he's accurate, then I would leave it alone. So that was the last of the that I ever heard of even considering changing it. Crazy enough, though, my son never did throw a big ball like I did at that age, and he throws it the exact same way. So there could be some discrepancy in exactly how I got it, but he throws it the same way. And anytime I try to tell him, he says, "Dad, you throw it that way." So I've left him alone also.
Thank you.
All right, last question, Jamariella.
Hey, Philip, I was just curious. I know you've known Frank for a long time, but I was curious, is he different now, evolved or different in any way than when you knew him in San Diego? And if so, how has he changed, or maybe he's the same guy?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think in a lot of ways he is certainly the same guy. I think, and you guys have probably gotten to know Frank enough to appreciate that he's a man who always wants to improve and always wants to grow as a person and as a coach. So, and so that being said, he's definitely not the same as he was, 5 years ago, because he's improved and he's better. And I say that he was really good then. So I think what I mean by that is he's a man that always wants to get better. So I think, but in a lot of ways he's the same. I mean, obviously, from a standpoint of personality and interaction and the way he leads and those things that you have that are staples for someone, those things usually stick around. But certainly, his time from there to Philly and then now as a head coach, you grow. And but it's been good. I think he and Nick both, even Jason Michael, those were guys that I had a lot of interaction with and back in San Diego, and had developed that trust and that chemistry where you just communicate. I don't know, you just communicate the same way, I guess, in a lot of ways, and get to know one another. So it has been cool to see that kind of just pick right up where we left off from a standpoint of the way we communicate, interact. We're watching tape or talking about a play here and there. There hasn't been a lot of, having to get back used to. It's kind of just picked up right off the bat.